The movie begins with a mysterious man called the Traveler. He enters a small, plain Christmas tree shop. The shop worker tells him that getting a certain object was expensive because of tighter security at the border. He expects a lot of money in return. The traveler puts a black bag full of cash on the table. In exchange, the shop worker gives him a car key and tells him the object is in the trunk of a blue BMW. After taking the key, the traveler kills both the shop worker and another man, burns the shop down, and leaves. He finds a black suitcase in the car trunk. Ethan Kopech is a TSA agent at LAX. He's been working there for 3 years but feels stuck in his job. He had wanted to be a police officer but was rejected, leaving him unmotivated. The only bright spot in his life is his girlfriend, Nora, who works as a manager at the same airport. They love each other deeply and are expecting a baby. On a bus ride to work, Nora gently talks to Ethan about his career. She knows he's unhappy and tries to encourage him not to give up. At work, Ethan is late again, upsetting his boss. A law enforcement officer named Williams announces that the Department of Homeland Security has ordered counterfeit detecting pens for staff to use. The crew is told to report any suspicious activity to a contact named Leo. Ethan's friend advises him to work harder and reminds him that he now has a child to think about. The friend also mentions he got a promotion recently, even though he started working after Ethan. Ethan gathers courage and asks his boss for a promotion. His boss brings up Ethan's tardiness and doubts his dedication to the job. Ethan argues that he's good at spotting fake boarding passes and offers to prove it. His friend even lets Ethan take his spot at the scanner to show his skills. Meanwhile, a white van arrives at the airport. Inside, a man is chained up, introducing a new character called the Watcher. The Watcher hacks into the airport's security cameras. At the scanner, Ethan starts his work. The Traveler, who we met earlier, contacts the Watcher for updates. However, the Watcher notices Ethan at the scanner instead of Jason, who was supposed to be there. They decide to blackmail Jason by using information about his family. Then, they dig up Ethan's address and learn about Nora and the baby, passing this information to the Traveler. As Ethan works, a customer hands him an earpiece, saying it's not hers. Ethan plans to put it in Lost and Found, but then he gets a text. Put it on. Curious, he does. The Traveler's voice comes through the earpiece. The Traveler orders Ethan to let a certain bag through security without raising an alarm. If Ethan refuses, Nora will be killed. Ethan is terrified as the voice continues. The Traveler tells him to let a man in a red cap, flying on Northwind Flight 1850 at 5:40 p.m., pass through security unchecked. When Ethan asks what's in the bag, the Traveler coldly says it's none of his business. To make things worse, the Traveler starts listing Jason's home address and details about his family, including his twin children, making the threat clear. Desperate, Ethan tries to call 911 without being noticed, but the Watcher, watching him through hacked cameras, quickly informs the Traveler. The Traveler warns Ethan with chilling words, making it clear he's being monitored at every step. The Traveler's men have a rifle aimed at Ethan's pregnant girlfriend, threatening to shoot if he disobeys. Panicked, Ethan ends his call and locks his phone in a drawer, his hands shaking. Meanwhile, Detective Elena arrives at the Christmas tree shop where two men, O. Vapen and his nephew, were killed by the Traveler. She learns they were part of the Bratva, a Russian criminal group. While investigating, Elena finds a watch on O. Vapen's body. She carefully opens it and discovers an ATF bug inside. This device can record up to 72 hours of audio. Hoping to find clues, Elena sends the watch to a skilled colleague to recover the recordings. At the airport, Christmas Eve celebrations are in full swing. Ethan secretly tries to send an SOS message using his smartwatch. However, the Watcher, monitoring everything, stops him. Ethan reluctantly puts the device away. The Traveler, enjoying his control over Ethan, begins revealing personal details about Ethan's life, like his father's job as a mall security guard and his mother's career as a teacher. Ethan is shocked, wondering how the Traveler knows so much about him. Meanwhile, Elena's colleague works on the damaged ATF chip and manages to recover some audio fragments. Most of it is unclear, but they learn O. Vapen was involved in selling firearms to Russian buyers. The traveler reveals he's a freelancer who takes jobs without asking questions. Desperate for help, Ethan turns off the scanner and scribbles details about the traveler on a passenger's boarding pass. He hands it to a law enforcement officer, Leo, pretending it's part of a routine check. Leo reads the note, understands the danger, and leaves to call for backup. But the traveler, always one step ahead, notices something is wrong. Before Leo can act, the traveler injects him with a fast-acting drug, causing a fatal heart attack. The traveler warns Ethan, if he tries anything like that again, his girlfriend Nora will die. Ethan's boss suddenly reassigns him to a different post near the metal detectors, disrupting the traveler's plans. The traveler, speaking through the earpiece, warns Ethan to return to his original post, or there will be deadly consequences. Thinking quickly, Ethan comes up with a risky plan. He adds alcohol to a coffee and swaps it with Jason's drink. Soon, Jason's coffee smells like alcohol, and their boss immediately fires him. As Jason leaves, he gives Ethan a sharp look, realizing Ethan set him up. Reluctantly, Ethan lets the suspicious bag pass through the scanner without alerting anyone. Afterward, he feels sick with guilt and rushes to the restroom to vomit. He knows the bag contains something dangerous, but feels helpless to stop the traveler. Meanwhile, Elena hears a key word from the recovered ATF audio: Novichok. She recognizes it as a deadly chemical weapon used in Russian warfare. Alarmed, she contacts Homeland Security. Back at the airport, the traveler reveals just how deadly Novichok is. Even a tiny amount can cause a person to drown in their own blood. Ethan realizes the danger, but feels powerless. At the police station, Agent John from Homeland Security reviews Elena's findings. Her captain and the agent doubt her conclusions, since they're based on one unclear word. The tension rises when a colleague informs them that a 911 call was placed from LAX under Ethan Kopech's name. Alarmed, Elena and Agent John rush to the airport. At LAX, police begin investigating the possible threat. Ethan's boss announces random security checks for 50 passengers as a precaution. Seizing the chance, Ethan uses his boss's credentials to flag the traveler's associate Maddo for inspection. Soon, an announcement calls for Maddo to report to security. The traveler, always suspicious, immediately realizes Ethan is behind this. The traveler grows furious as his plan faces disruptions. Keeping a close eye on Ethan, he makes sure Ethan knows Nora's life is still in danger. Overwhelmed by fear and guilt, Ethan runs to find Nora. When he reaches her, he sees a sniper's red laser dot aimed at her body. Nora confronts Ethan, accusing him of being responsible for Jason's sudden firing. She's shocked and hurt, unable to believe Ethan would stoop so low. Before Ethan can explain, the traveler speaks through Ethan's earpiece. His voice is cold and menacing as he warns Ethan not to say a word. If Ethan does, Nora will be shot immediately. Heartbroken, Ethan steps back, unable to defend himself or tell her the truth. Tension rises when the traveler corners Ethan in the bathroom. A brutal fight breaks out. Desperate, Ethan grabs a gun and points it at the traveler, demanding he call off the sniper. Instead of complying, the traveler pulls out his phone and activates a bomb set to explode in 10 minutes. Ethan races to find the weapon. He discovers his boss with the traveler's associate, Maddo. Through the earpiece, the traveler taunts Ethan, daring him to shoot Maddo to stop the bomb. Ethan hesitates, unwilling to kill. His hesitation costs him as Maddo kills Ethan's boss. Maddo reveals he's also a pawn in the traveler's scheme. His husband has been taken hostage, forcing him to follow orders. Together, Ethan and Maddo manage to defuse the bomb after a tense struggle. Meanwhile, Detective Elena and Agent John head to the airport. On the way, Elena gets a call from her colleague. She learns that Agent John is supposed to be at the precinct, meaning the man with her is an imposter. Elena confronts the fake agent, leading to a fierce fight. She defeats him and flags down a car to rush to the airport. Back at LAX, Ethan and Maddo try to hide their boss's body. The traveler orders Maddo to kill Ethan, but during the fight, Maddo accidentally shoots himself. As he lies dying, Maddo tearfully apologizes for his actions. Desperate, Ethan takes Maddo's phone and tries to call Nora, but she doesn't answer. He messages a colleague, warning them about Nora's danger and a suspicious white van. Ethan devises a plan to switch the carry-on bag containing the weapon with a regular bag. This will force the bag into the cargo area, giving him a chance to access it. The traveler retrieves his carry-on bag and boards a flight to Washington, D.C. However, the bag doesn't fit in the overhead compartment, so it's placed in the cargo hold and scanned. Nora and Ethan discover the plane the traveler is on. Ethan tells Nora the only way to stop the disaster is to let the plane take off. He explains he can defuse the weapon from the cargo hold. Ethan urges Nora to find Detective Elena and explain everything. Elena receives a crucial call from her colleague. They uncover the traveler's plan. The weapon is meant to frame the Russians for an attack. This would rally support for a controversial bill benefiting weapons manufacturers. A congresswoman, traveling under a fake name, is key to the plan. She's pushing the bill, which targets Russian interests, but it lacks enough support. As the plane takes off, Ethan sneaks into the cargo hold. He races against time to find and neutralize the weapon. The traveler realizes Ethan's intentions and confronts him. A fight breaks out. Ethan manages to outsmart the traveler, locking him in the cargo fridge. Trapped in the freezing cold, the traveler succumbs to his own failed plan. Afterward, Detective Elena, impressed by Ethan's bravery, offers him a job as a police officer. At first, Ethan hesitates, but he eventually accepts, eager to use his skills for good. 1 year later, Ethan is living a happy life with Nora and their child. He has also mended his friendship with Jason, and the two are close again. The end. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe for more videos.